Well, good afternoon and good morning, everyone. Thanks for attending this BAS webinar. My name is Stephen Midgley, and I'm the Chief Operating Officer for XM Developments, the maker of Sage eCommerce. So today we're going to talk about the benefits of an integrated e-commerce solution. We'll talk a little bit about the landscape and so the impact that B2B e-commerce is having on all businesses in all industries. We'll talk a little bit about the digital disconnect that many companies are facing as a result of the fast-paced and evolving world of e-commerce. We'll talk about the benefits of integrated e-commerce and things you should be thinking about when looking at integrated e-commerce solution as well, things that you should be considering when how to sort of build out a e-commerce platform. And then we'll talk a little bit about Sage eCommerce and some of the customers that are using the platform today. There's a chat box. If you have questions, feel free to submit them, and there'll be time at the end of the session to answer any questions as well. My contact info will be on the last slide, so feel free to reach out to me after the session. I'll be happy to speak to anyone who's dialed in for the call. So first, let's talk about the market landscape. I think it's always good to talk about sort of the macro or the big picture and look at what trends that we're seeing at XM Developments as it relates to the evolving world of B2B e-commerce. And this data points from Forrester, and by 2020, they expect the North American B2B e-commerce market to be worth $1 trillion, or twice the size of the B2C e-commerce market. And it's interesting because when we think e-commerce, often we think B2C or business to consumer. And that's principally because we are all consumers of technology. Most of us will have made online purchases during the recent holiday season. Most of us are using apps on a daily basis. Most of us have used purchase goods from Amazon or from Chapters in Canada. And so we work familiar with B2C. The reality is business to business or B2B is really where the growth is and really where the revenue opportunity for all of you is as e-commerce evolves. But what's driving that shift and that rapid growth? There's a few factors. One is this channel shifting, and that's really being driven by mass adoption of technology. Now, for those like me in your late 40s, you'll remember having to get off the couch to change the TV channel. The next generation has no idea. That's a completely foreign concept. They are completely comfortable with technology. And so as millennials move into increasingly important roles within companies, or decision-making roles, they are completely comfortable with technology, and they expect to be able to transact business online. So we're seeing the shift of buyers moving from traditional offline channels to online channels. And in fact, 56% of B2B buyers today in North America are purchasing online. So 56% of B2B buyers are comfortable transacting online today, and so they expect that to be an option for them when they purchase. And an important point here is it's not just about digital. What they really expect is to be able to make transactions multiple channels. And you may have heard the term omni-channel. It's a bit of a buzzword, but omni-channel is really where B2B companies need to strive for and reach, where your customers can transact with you offline, online, and have the same experience. Another trend that we see that's driving B2B growth is 81% report online sales have a higher average order value, or AOV, average order value. So 81% report higher online sales. And some of the reasons for that is people who is related items. So people who bought this also bought these products. And many of us have gone to Amazon or Chapters and intended to buy one item and came away with 3 items. And so it's a way of bundling products. It's a way of driving the average order value per transaction. And over 75% of purchases start with Google. Chances are everyone on the session today is a regular consumer of Google. And often when we think of search engine optimization or SEO, we often think it's a B2C play, but the reality is it's an important B2B play as well. And so 75% of purchases start with Google. And so when you're looking at an e-commerce solution, you need to make sure that it's properly optimized for search engines. And really, there's only one search engine that matters, and that's Google. Microsoft has Bing, but Google is really where it starts and ends when it comes to search engines. And so SEO, search engine optimization, is an important part of B2B e-commerce growth. And the reality is the average B2B buyer has been to 12 sites when they reach your site. So they're doing their research in advance. And finally, B2B buyers are not loyal to poor websites. And so what we're seeing is an increasing presence on the presentation layer and the importance of look and feel, because really, when you think about your website, it is an extension of your digital brand online. And so we'll talk about that a bit later in the session, but really, because B2B buyers are also B2C consumers, they have a certain expectation in terms of look and feel and expect to have a good, solid experience when they come to your website. So state of the market, what we're seeing is an interesting trend, and these are Canadian statistics, but they really show the importance of that state and how e-commerce is inevitable. If you're not thinking about e-commerce today, if you're not using e-commerce today, it's inevitable that you will at some point embrace e-commerce and have to use it, whether you're forced to or it's because your customers are asking for. And this stat really shows that point. So in Canada, we have a 93% internet penetration. It's highest in the world per capita, actually tied with Australia. But 93% of Canadians are accessing the internet. For the US, it's a bit lower than 93, it's about 89%. And in Canada, 98% of businesses are just like everyone on this call, small, medium enterprises. So 98% of businesses in Canada are what we categorize as SME, which really shows it's the backbone of the business. So 93, 98, we'll talk about those data points in a minute, but it does show that you've got mass adoption, almost absolute adoption of internet usage, and 98% of businesses are SME. So big stats in terms of growth. If we look at Canada, what we see is pretty significant growth, 45% growth in B2B e-commerce revenue in Canada. And so that's substantial growth. And I would say that when we hit 2020, end of next year, that 56 billion will actually be a bit lower. I think there is a rapid adoption of B2B e-commerce, and we're going to see accelerated growth patterns when it comes to B2B e-commerce. And so I would be surprised that 56 billion does not exceed 60 billion by the end of 2020. So what's sort of driving that growth, that acceleration of B2B? There's a couple of factors. 80% of Canadian B2B companies have migrated offline customers online. And so they have developed plans and programs to encourage companies to migrate offline to online. It's more cost effective, helps drive incremental revenue. It's less intensive from a resource perspective. So B2B companies are seeing that online is a more effective channel in transacting with their customers than offline. And 56% expect more than half of their customers are buying online. So they know that that's the reality. And so a lot of B2B companies are trying to figure out how do we provide an e-commerce solution that's going to meet the needs of our customers. So I shared this data with you, and the question is, why is it important to you? Why is this data relevant to you and your business? And the simple answer is it's important. It's important to your customers and prospects. They are looking at B2B e-commerce. They're looking at e-commerce as it means to transact. And so you need to be able to provide them with the e-commerce solution. And not all e-commerce solutions are the same. And there's various different aspects of various vendors, but you need to be thinking about how do I implement e-commerce into my supply chain? How do I implement e-commerce into my operations to be able to address the changing needs of my customer base? And what we see is e-commerce is this disruptive technology. In general, technology is disruptive, but e-commerce specifically is quite disruptive. So what we're seeing with e-commerce is it's changing how businesses interact with their customers, their partners, and their employees. So e-commerce is not just how we interact with our stakeholders, external stakeholders like our business partners and our customers and prospects. It's also changing how we interact internally when it comes to employees. And it changes how they want to interact with us. And so what we're seeing is this digital transformation. And the key word here isn't digital. The key word here is transformation. Technology in general and e-commerce more specifically is transforming how we conduct business. I mean, there are so many examples from the B2C world of how technology and digital is changing how we interact. So for many of you, you go downtown, you park your car, you don't have to put coins in a machine now. It's all pay by phone. It's all on your phone. And so that phone has become extremely important to your day-to-day habits. And for many people, losing a phone is more critical than losing a wallet. And it won't be that long that we don't use currency. It's rare that you go to a retail outlet where you actually have to use cash. And so we're seeing this evolution of digital technology transforming us as consumers, and that transformation is only going to impact how those consumers want to interact in a B2B environment. So interesting times, rapidly changing times. But we do see this transformation. And as B2B business leaders, you all and we all need to be thinking how we can embrace technology to improve the experience, not just for our employees, but also for our customers. And so what we see because of e-commerce and digital, we see this dawn of a new reality, a new digital reality. And that is the consumerization of your customers has already happened. And B2C is really, or business to consumer, is a tip of the spear and is really driving this digital behavior and the expectations of what they want to have in the business-to-business marketplace. The reality is your customers, compared to even just 10 years ago, they are more informed than ever before. They're doing their research, they know what they want, and they know what they want before they engage. Think about B2C. Think about 25 years ago. You're going to buy a car. Maybe you got a magazine, Motor Trend or Car and Drive. I did a little bit of reading. You would walk onto the lot, and you would have to be at the mercy of the car sales guy, and he or she would be telling you all the bells and whistles. Think about today. You go on the lot, you know exactly what you want, you know the specs. You can build that car online, add all the paint colors, all the add-ons, so you know exactly what you want. You can do your research, you can cross-compare models. And so really, because of technology, the power is truly in the hands of the consumer, and that is impacting the B2B reality. And because they're all, we are all consumers of technology, they have a high expectation on usability and are influenced by social. A poorly constructed website is going to lead to a disenfranchised customer base. And chances are they could be going somewhere else. And so usability and the experience is critical to a successful e-commerce platform. And social is becoming increasingly popular as a means to not only to outbound market, but as a means of building a rapport with your customer base. And so for those who don't have a social media plan, as part of your digital plan, you should be thinking about how, what platforms you should be engaging with. For example, video has become extremely important and critical in terms of driving awareness and helping with search engine rankings. So as a result of this new digital reality, B2B e-commerce is reaching critical mass. And so if you don't have an e-commerce solution today, and we'll talk about that in a little bit, you really need to be building a plan of how you embrace e-commerce, because one thing for sure is your competition, and we all have competition. Your competition is looking at e-commerce if they don't have it already implemented. So we see these sort of trends, and one of the big trends that we're seeing is the rise of mobility. And the ubiquity of mobility is today's reality. We've all got smart devices, phones, tablets. As we talked about, 56% of B2B buyers are shifting offline to online. And so we're seeing the rise of mobility, and people want to be able to transact not just from a desk, but also on the go. So being able to conduct business on the phone, on the tablet. And because of mobility, responsive design is a must-have. You need to ensure your site is responsive design. And when I say responsive design, what I mean is it scales to any device size. So your website renders on a smartphone as well as it renders on a large monitor or on a tablet. And so responsive design is critical. It also helps with search engine optimization ranking. So back in 2014, Google made some algorithm changes that a responsive design website would rank higher than a non-responsive design site. If you're not sure if your site's responsive design, HTML5, quickly grab your phone after the presentation, grab your phone and enter in your website onto your on your phone and see how it renders. If it's broken, if it doesn't scale well, you've got a site that isn't responsive design. And so those are things you need to be considering when looking at an e-commerce solution. And what we see, a really interesting data point, this is Canadian data, 68% of Canadians are doing transacting via a mobile device at least once a month. So 68%. And so we're seeing more and more comfort level. And I talked about earlier about the millennials. What we find with the millennials is this is how they transact. For those who have kids, teenagers like I do, you know that they're on their phone constantly, and that's how they interact. That's how they watch videos. That's how they consume information. And so it's changing how we consume information. It's changing how we engage. And so you need to make sure whatever e-commerce solution you look at, that it's responsive design, that it scales to mobile devices, that you allow your customers to transact with you via mobile devices. Another trend and aspect to think about when looking at e-commerce is the demand of buyers. They're very demanding. And because of technology, we all have adult onset ADHD. You're at home, you're watching a show on Netflix because everyone streams. People don't watch cable, regular TV like they used to. And that's another thing about millennials. They don't watch TV. Young people actually will consume videos on like YouTube or will stream. They don't watch traditional TV. But you're watching something like a Netflix, and maybe you have your iPad open and you're doing some research about the movie or an actor or where it's being filmed. And so because of technology, we can't stay focused. We're sort of all over the map. So what we find is because what you have buyers who are fickle. When they come to your website, they want to know where and how to make an immediate purchase. So they have to go hunting for the buy now button or where to log in. It's problematic, and they're not going to spend a lot of time looking for it. If they can't get what they want, they're going to go elsewhere. So a poorly designed website is going to cause you problems, because the reality is 49% will buy a competing product that was easier to purchase online. And this is B2B data. And so if you have a site that's poorly designed, difficult, doesn't render well, there's a good chance you're going to lose customers as a result. And what we see is this sort of what we call the sort of Amazon effect. And it's interesting. Amazon, it's really changing how we consume and interact with technology. And Amazon's impacting all aspects of our business. And so Amazon we view as an agent of change when it comes to how e-commerce and more broadly how technology is impacting the way we interact. This Amazon effect has had dramatic changes in how people view technology and how people use technology. And Amazon's interesting. It began in 1994 as a book seller. They sold books, and it's an interesting story. But they have evolved very quickly in a relatively short period of time. For those who follow Amazon, you'll be aware that a couple of years ago, I think back in 2017, they acquired Whole Foods. And so they've got into the supermarket business, and they're testing in a few different outlets where you walk in to Whole Foods, you pick your goods, and then you walk out. There's no checkout. There's no trying to figure out how to do the self-serve checkout and how the UPC code's all crunched up and it's frustrating and someone has to come help you. You walk in, you walk out, and it scans your body. You go in, it scans your body as you go out. And so interesting, definitely what we'd call a tip of the spear, but it's changing how people interact. Now, not directly a B2B example, but the reality is that kind of thinking is changing how consumers think about technology and will impact B2B. An interesting side note, we look at the last 7 years, the fastest growing company in terms of shareholder value. When I ask that question at presentations, at events, people say Google, Netflix, Apple. The answer is the fastest growing company in the last 7 years in shareholder value is Domino's Pizza. Now, I don't know if Domino's is good pizza, but they have embraced technology, and they view themselves as a technology company, not a pizza company. 60% of their orders are online. Now, they're still expanding, so they have an omni-channel model. You can still go into a Domino's storefront, but 60% of their orders are online. And the connection to Amazon is, things like Alexa and Echo. You have Amazon Echo. Sunday night you burn the casserole. You can ask Amazon Echo to order 2 large pizzas from Domino's. It will connect to the local Domino's outlet, and those pizzas will be sent to you. And so you see this changing technology and how we're using it, and that all tip of the spear, but it's all impacting e-commerce in the B2B world, and things you need to be thinking about when looking at your e-commerce solution, because your customers are only going to become more savvy when it comes to the usage of technology, more sophisticated. So interesting stuff, maybe scary, depending on where you sit on the world of technology. But one thing is for sure, it is the reality, and it is the direction we're going. So we see this growth in B2B, we see this impact on the status quo, yet we still see this in many areas, significant digital disconnect. And there is no industry that is immune to technology. Every industry will, in one way or another, be impacted by technology, but this is digital disconnect. So earlier in the session, I talked about these 2 numbers, 93 and 98. Important numbers because it shows you that the vast majority of people are using the internet, and the vast majority of businesses are, like everyone on this call, small, medium enterprises. So there is a natural collision course when it comes to the use of technology and e-commerce. Yet, these numbers show you the digital disconnect that exists today. Only 17% of small, medium enterprise businesses have an e-commerce enabled website, and 71% have no plans to develop e-commerce capabilities. Those are pretty scary numbers. It does tell us that there's a bit of a denial when it comes to e-commerce, that very few businesses have an e-commerce website, and a majority of businesses have no plans to develop e-commerce capabilities. And that 29% that do have plans or have an e-commerce enabled website are really going to, as you evolve, are really going to start to take more and more market share. And this data point was from a Canadian PayPal survey last year. And what's interesting is, according to the Canadian Internet Registration Authority, or CIRA, 40% of Canadian small medium businesses don't have a website, and it's really on the small side of the SME spectrum, and it's likely because they're using a Facebook or a LinkedIn as their website, and there's a whole bunch of problems with that from an SEO perspective, but why is that number 71%? It's quite shocking when I read that. And some analysis is really around businesses are worried about online fraud. They're worried about being caught, being left with unpaid invoices or goods not being bought. They have limited technology, so tech knowledge. So they don't understand how e-commerce works, and it's concerning. And so hopefully it'll just pass them by. And so they don't have the IT department who can go and handle all that work. And they're worried about being able to provide the same level of service online as they do in store. They built a business on a handshake. They built a business on face-to-face interaction and relationships. And they feel that e-commerce is a separation of that, and they won't be able to provide the same level of quality service that they do in an offline environment. The reality is e-commerce done well will allow you to not worry about online fraud. E-commerce done well means you don't really need to have a whole whack of technology people because of the cloud. There's no need to be worried about server configuration, hosting servers, everything's in the cloud. And because of integrated e-commerce, you should be able to provide and can provide the same level of service online through personalization and customization. And again, this session is all about e-commerce, but what you really want to provide is that omni-channel. So when a customer comes into your storefront or your warehouse to make a transaction and they go online, it's the same level of experience in terms of information available to them. So the reality is this: many businesses take this approach when it comes to e-commerce and technology. The head in the sand, or really what we call the ostrich approach. And the reality is technology shouldn't be difficult. Technology should be easy, and it should be easy for you to embrace and easy for you to grow your business. So what we see is many companies have a web presence, but having a website, it does not mean you're digital. Those are two different things. And in fact, lots of websites aren't responsive design. Lots of websites are what we would consider to be brochureware, so kind of stuck in the 1990s, meaning they're one-dimensional. There's no means of interaction. There's no means to make a purchase. A lot of websites have a buy now button, and when you click on it, it's just a mail to link or a form you fill in that goes to John or Samantha in your orders department. So the reality is you need to be thinking about, how do I get digital? How do I transform my one-dimensional web presence to a digital, fully integrated web presence? And when we think of e-commerce, often we think of e-commerce as this shopping cart, and that's really thanks to business to consumer, B2C e-commerce. So I go to a website, I make some purchases, it's a shopping cart, that's what it is. But really, it is not a shopping cart. It's more than a shopping cart. E-commerce is about the experience. One thing is for sure, all roads lead to the web. From your go-to-market perspective, the web is the underpinning of your go-to-market strategy. It's the foundation of your go-to-market efforts. Whether you're B2C or B2B, it's the foundation. People will go to your website first to assess who you are, and your website should address a few things. It should address who you are, what you do, and why you matter, and how do I transact with you. And so it's all about the experience. That presentation layer is very important. The experience you provide to your customers is extremely important. And that experience will actually become more important than what you're selling. And so a great product with a really bad experience, it's going to have negative effects to your business. But that experience is critical. You need to provide your customers with a positive, solid user experience to which they can engage and transact the way they want. And so the experience is absolutely critical to how you launch and manage and optimize your B2B e-commerce platform. When we look about experience, this data is from Forrester. When we look at that experience, 85% of B2B buyers expect accurate and up-to-date information. So when they come to your website to purchase, stock information is correct, the pricing information is correct, maybe that pricing information is tailored to them. Maybe you have a tiered partner model, excuse me, where they are able to get the unique pricing. Maybe the look and feel is tailored to them, so it looks like it's their own individualized shopping experience. 80% believe consistency is critical to customer retention. So consistency of experience across multiple channels is critical to customer retention. And 65% of B2B buyers engage a sales rep after they've made a purchase decision. And all of this is really based on integrated e-commerce. It is very difficult to have a solid experience when you have a disconnected front end or e-commerce platform from your back end, your Sage ERP system. So when we talk about integration, what we're talking about is integrating your front end with your back end, and we'll get to that in a minute. And really, it isn't e-commerce unless it's integrated e-commerce. So you may have some sort of quasi e-commerce platform, but if it's not integrated into your ERP system, it truly is not an e-commerce platform that's going to scale as your business grows. So we look at the benefits of e-commerce, and this is from Aberdeen Group, research from out of the States. It's pretty simple. I won't read this verbatim, but the visitor to buyer conversion rates are over 25%. B2B companies that have integrated systems see an increase in conversion rates, and they see a reduction in shopping cart abandonment, which is a big problem for a lot of e-commerce platforms. People put stuff in the shopping cart and then they disappear. And so how do you deal with that? How do you ensure that those shopping carts, that those customers complete the transaction? So companies that have integrated systems, they see more annual revenue. They see more opportunity to cross-sell, upsell, and have a high return on marketing investments. Because of e-commerce, you can do related items. People who bought X also bought Z. You can also push certain stock. So maybe the stock you have excess inventory in one area, and you can push it online. And so there's ways to do cross promotions and to do bundles. So when we look at B2B buyers' expectations, 85% and executives, 85% believe back office is important to the customer experience. They know that connecting the back office with the front office, their ERP system, with your web presence, your e-commerce platform, is important to the customer experience. As a customer, when I come to your website, I expect to see correct information. It's a really bad experience when I go to the website, I make a purchase, I'm happy, and then the next day I find out that I get an email saying, "Oh, I'm sorry, that item's out of stock." That's a negative user experience, and likely that's a lost customer. 60% believe integration with the back office is a key initiative. So in 2019, 60% of SMEs surveyed believe integration with the back office is a key initiative, because they know through integration, it's a way of improving business processes, and it's a way of driving incremental revenue for their operation. And 40% of buyers want more integration. Now, chances are those B2B buyers don't understand what integration means in terms of the nuts and bolts and the technical aspects, but they know integration is going to provide them with a better overall user experience. So interesting, but most B2B companies have non-integrated solutions. Really the promise of e-commerce is twofold: improve business processes and drive incremental revenue. If your e-commerce solution is not doing doing both of those, you've got a problem. And when we look at e-commerce, there's two aspects to an e-commerce platform. There's a front-end presentation layer, and then there's a back-end integration. The reality is 90% of B2B sites are not properly integrated. Why? Because it's really difficult stuff. Integrating into all those database tables can be really daunting and quite challenging. The presentation layer, often, and I spent most of my career in enterprise marketing, marketers in particular will get hung up on the look and feel. And I would agree, the look and feel of the presentation layer is critical. It's an extension of your brand online. But first and foremost, an e-commerce site has to be able to transact. So at XM, one of our mantras from an onboarding perspective is it's transactional first, presentation second. So we want to make sure that the sites are, like the e-commerce platform is transacting. Prices are being pushed up to the platform. Orders are going through to the ERP system. And in the presentation layer, there's lots of flexibility. I'll show some examples in a bit of building that presentation layer. But first and foremost, when you're looking at e-commerce solution, you need to be thinking about how does it integrate into my ERP system? For a couple of reasons. One, a non-integrated site, you're going to have inconsistencies between back office and web. So what's on the website might not be a true reflection of what's actually in your Sage system. A non-integrated site, it becomes too time-consuming to maintain product catalog and pricing. So you're having to go into the website and manually update product information. And three, data entry and import errors. No matter how great John and Samantha are at taking orders over the phone or from the website, the reality is errors will happen. It's just human nature. And so when a customer places an order on your website and it flows directly into your Sage ERP system, if there is an error, it's going to be on the customer side, but it's not going to be because of data entry. And the reality is if you're having to rekey orders from your website into your Sage system, you don't have an e-commerce solution. You may think you have e-commerce, but really you don't have an e-commerce solution. And what you have is a fragmented system that just isn't going to scale as your business grows. And speaking of scaling, you're on this call because you're a Sage customer, or you use Sage, or you're looking at Sage. Now, using Sage in any ERP system, it's the backbone of your business. All that logic you've built into your Sage system. And so what you need to be able to do is take that logic and extract it and get it onto the web. And that's what integration does for you. Integration allows you to have a single source of the truth, or a single version of the truth, which is what Sage is for your business, to make sure that you don't have any of these sort of knowledge shadows across your organization, that you're all working from the same database, from the same version of the truth. And so extending your Sage platform to the to your Sage e-commerce platform, which your e-commerce platform is critical for how you scale and ramp up your B2B e-commerce experience. So let's take a few minutes and look about how you should be approaching integrated e-commerce. There's really 3 steps. It's build, manage, and optimize. So when we look at looking at e-commerce, maybe you have a website today, but you don't have e-commerce, or maybe you have a non-integrated e-commerce solution. What are the things that you should be thinking about as you build out your digital plan? The first step is build. And your e-commerce solution should extend your business and brand online. The reality is every business is unique, and you need a platform that is fully integrated with your Sage system, so that you can scale your e-commerce platform as you grow your business. You also need to have the flexibility to extend that brand. And so you need the flexibility of a platform that's going to take your brand guidelines, your look and feel, the user experience you want, and be able to extend that. So you don't want a platform that's going to lock you into a box and you have very little flexibility on the user experience. And so you will looking for a couple of things, integration and user experience. The most important question you should ask is, and this is for any adjacent technology, is how does it integrate with my ERP system? That is the most important question. That is the question you ask first, is how does it integrate with my ERP system? If you get a response, well, we'll get to that later, or let's focus on the presentation layer, that's not the answer you're looking for, because I guarantee in that scenario, it's going to cost you a lot more money than you expect to get a fully integrated e-commerce platform. The next step is manage. And so building a site is one thing, managing that e-commerce platform, very different. And so you need to understand and segment the buyer journey. So maybe you have tiered pricing, maybe you have different levels of customers in terms of pricing. You need a solution that's going to offer tiered pricing. You need a solution that's going to be able to allow you to manage customers at different levels. And when they log in or register, to offer them maybe a tailored experience unique to them. Maybe there's only certain products that you sell to certain customers. And so when they go in and when they register, they self-identify. And so you can provide them with a tailored experience that allows you to provide that level of service that maybe you would provide in an offline environment. Finally, you need to make sure that what you have is an easy to manage tool. If you have an e-commerce site where you need development resources to update and maintain, or you need to connect with servers on premise, that becomes expensive, time consuming, and often most companies don't have those resources. And so you want to make sure that you are using a tool, a platform that has WYSIWYG, what you see is what you get, type tools that allows you to easily manage and update your e-commerce platform. In most cases, if your platform has to go beyond marketing from a day-to-day management perspective, you're going to run into problems from a cost perspective. Finally, optimize. I've always looked at websites as sort of boxes. And so you can have really good content in your box, but if nobody opens it up, how do they know what's there? And so you need to think about how you can optimize your website. So you need to be looking at a website. Does it allow me to leverage search engine optimization, adding H1 tags and metadata to pages so I can drive natural search? And when we're looking at SEO, there's pay-per-click or PPC, which is ads, and there's natural search. And certainly natural search has a far higher click-through than pay-per-click. And pay-per-click are those ads you see on Google pages. And so when looking at e-commerce, one of the questions you should be asking, thinking long-term management optimization, is how do I leverage search engine optimization to improve my search ranking? Because at the beginning of the session, we talked about how important SEO is. 75% of B2B buyers go to Google first. And so SEO is a prime consideration for continuously optimizing your site. You need tools to be able to promote and connect. So does your e-commerce platform integrate with social media tools? Does it integrate with blogs such as WordPress? Blogging is an effective way of raising your profile and sharing your thoughts around your industry, your products, your company. You need to be able to utilize analytics and implement lead conversion tactics. So a key metric for any e-commerce platform is how many leads you're getting and what's the conversion rate of visit to leads. So how many visits are coming to your website and how do you convert those to leads? And so you need to make sure that you've got tools like Google Analytics integrates with your e-commerce platform so you can continuously optimize and test new ideas on your platform. So let's take a couple minutes and we'll talk about Sage e-commerce. So we work with Sage. We're the only certified e-commerce solution, only certified solution by Sage. And one of the reasons they certified us was that Sage, Nick Good is an executive VP of product at Sage, Sage views e-commerce as a means to optimize and streamline processes and drive revenue. And so they view e-commerce very much how we view e-commerce as a way to optimize business processes and drive incremental revenue. And you can do that through an integrated e-commerce solution, as is the case with Sage e-commerce. So Sage e-commerce, we have over 200 customers worldwide. We have offices in Vancouver, where I'm based, in London, UK, Cape Town, and Auckland. We have over 1 million unique users, and we do an annual transaction volume of over $1 billion on the platform. We have customers that will do a few $1,000s a month in volume to customers that are doing hundreds of thousands of dollars a month in volume. We have clients in over 10 countries and there are over 1 million SKUs on the Sage e-commerce platform. The platform itself is completely SaaS, so software as a service. It's in the cloud. It's using the Google Cloud platform. And we used to use Amazon and we switched to Google a few months ago. So it's built on the Google platform. So we're able to leverage all of the Google tools, such as Google Tag Manager, Google Analytics, as part of the Sage e-commerce platform. And in essence, Sage e-commerce enables you to seamlessly extend your Sage platform to the digital world. And so all that business logic that you're building into your Sage ERP system, we allow you to take that knowledge and extend it to the digital world to give you secure and real-time e-commerce. As I mentioned, we're Sage certified. And what that means is we went through an 18-month process with Sage for certification. It means that our integration, proven security protocols, commitment to future releases. So we have a view into what Sage is doing with Sage 300 and Sage Enterprise Management in terms of future feature releases. They have a view into our roadmap, and so make sure that they're aligned in terms of delivering a integrated experience for the Sage customer. And most importantly, the software does as it's expected. And so the software delivers on that integration. So when we look at Sage eCommerce, we look at it as being insightful, intuitive, and integrated. Insightful, be able to use analytics. Intuitive, easy to use. We have a built-in content management system that allows people to go in and use manage content, do 301 redirects, optimize the site for SEO. So everything they need is in that content management system. There's no need for outside resources or tools to be able to effectively manage the e-commerce platform. One of the key benefits of Sage eCommerce is that integrated e-commerce, and that Sage eCommerce is the e-commerce engine for Sage with bidirectional real-time integration. And what we do is we duplicate the Sage Enterprise Management or Sage 300 business logic, and we replicate over 65 database tables. And that word duplication is really important because when a transaction is happening, we're not pinging your database every time. We take a copy of it, store it in the cloud, and so it's self-contained. And so we're working. There's no stress on your database. Now, what happens if in your operation, if you have a power outage and it goes down, your e-commerce platform, Sage e-commerce platform, is still operational. Orders are still going through, and once that connection's made again between Sage e-commerce and your Sage system, those orders begin to flow through again. So downtime at your business doesn't mean lost revenue when it comes to Sage e-commerce. So we help streamline those workflow automation business processes. It's highly scalable. So it scales as you move up the stack in terms of new versions of Sage 300 or Sage Enterprise Management. It takes about 45 minutes if you're moving to the latest version of Sage. And it's cost effective, so it allows you to get quick ROI on your platform. And as I mentioned, it's easy to manage. Sage eCommerce is designed for front-end people, designed for marketers, as opposed to dev. There is no requirement, once you're live, there is no requirement to have any dev resources be engaged with your e-commerce platform. So a quick look at the product features. Sage eCommerce is actually both a B2B and a B2C e-commerce solution. So the same platform works for both targets. 95% of our customers are B2B. We do have some B2C only customers. The most common scenario would be it's a B2B e-commerce client who is moving into B2C. So they have a bit of both. But what we offer is customer-specific pricing logic. You can personalize the experience by customer, on account option. You can do product attribute filtering. So for those, for example, a great example of product attribute is Best Buy. You can search by brand, search by model. It's SEO centric in its design. There's built-in reporting and analytics integration, and it also integrates with Google Analytics, so you can understand how people coming to your site, how they're using the site, where they go, and how they and where they exit. Some of the other interesting features that many of our clients use to improve business processes. One is quick order entry. We go back earlier and talk about the usability and user experience. Often what you'll find is your B2B customers don't want to spend a lot of time looking for stuff. They want to go in, make their order, and go. Quick order entry allows you to enter in a partial SKU or partial product name, and it will generate, using Elasticsearch, it will generate that product, and then you select your order. So you can key in partial item description, item number, generates the description that brings up the SKU. And so easy to select the item and click add to cart. So what you have here is you don't have to have your clients going around the website looking for what did they order last time. They can go and search for what they want exactly. The other feature is saved carts, and so maybe you have a customer who orders pretty much the same thing every month or once a week. Saved cart allows them to save past orders, and they go into that saved cart, hit submit, and there's no need to go searching. It's quick and easy. And really, when it comes to B2B e-commerce, from the transactional aspect, you want to make it quick and easy for your customers. Product catalog. And so product catalog is based exactly on what you have within Sage. You can hide prices if you want, or show prices because you're logging in. Prices can be based at the user level. Public users can view but not purchase items. And so you have a lot of flexibility. And for most of our clients, they've gotten away with traditional catalogs and now using online catalog. And it's a true reflection of what's actually in your Sage system, both in terms of the SKU and in terms of inventory. Mobile sales portal, so anywhere, anytime access for your sales teams. So what this allows you to do is if you have reps who are on the field or on the go, from the phone, from the mobile device, from laptop, they can place orders on behalf of customers. They can create order templates for customers. They've got real-time access to custom order status and account details, invoice payment status, and they can be notified of custom orders. So it gives them a closer relationship with their customers and be able to provide that high level of quality service. AR portal, which allows ability for your clients to pay their invoices online, to understand, get account details, invoice payment, credit status, order status. And within Sage eCommerce, because it's integrated with Sage, you can go in and look at all your orders. They're not just your orders through the Sage eCommerce platform. They're all orders you can look at. So maybe you've got a telesales department or storefront. Every order that goes through Sage, your customers can view. It's not just specific to Sage eCommerce, and that provides an omni-channel view of their experience with you. So we'll quick look at some of the successes. So we talked about some of these things, but principally Sage eCommerce addresses a number of challenges for our clients. It takes the risk and cost out of web to ERP integration. And so because integration is out of the box with Sage, between Sage eCommerce and Sage, there is no risk. We have over 200 customers that are fully integrated with their Sage 300 or Sage Enterprise Management platform. And so it takes the risk out of all the technical aspects of that integration. It's cost effective and fast to deploy. It streamlines business processes. It allows you to reduce data entry costs and redeploy staff onto other mission critical initiatives within your organization. And it helps you drive incremental revenue growth through various promotion techniques. And you look at these slides, I'm sure the BAS team will send these slides out, but some examples of sort of customer ROI in terms of client success that we've seen with some more clients. And so the common theme across all of these is that they're driving more customers online, and as a result, they're driving more revenue, and they're more efficient in how they do those transactions. Quick note on an onboarding process. So we have a 5-step process from start to finish. Kick off a planning phase where we meet to understand your business requirements and your objectives. We move into configuration, which is to ensure that's the connection between Sage eCommerce and your Sage platform to make sure the two are fully connected. We do a checkpoint at that stage to make sure that everything is working fine, and then we move into implementation. The goal of implementation is twofold. One, build out your e-commerce platform, the presentation layer, load up all the information, marketing content, product information, and also provide you training so that when you go live, you don't need XM development anymore. You are fully sufficient in being able to manage your Sage eCommerce platform. We do user acceptance testing. Once it's been signed off, we go into go live. And that's where we make sure that maybe you have an existing e-commerce site or existing website. So we make sure the 301 redirects are working properly. So any SEO work that you've done with the old site isn't lost in the new site. And then we make the switch over once you're comfortable with the go live. When we talk about presentation layer, integration is the first question you need to be asking. Presentation layer is the second question. These are some examples of sites to give you an idea of the flexibility of our presentation layer in terms of meeting your the digital experience and your brand guidelines. So there's lots of flexibility in the platform and be able to navigate. So quick summary, and we'll have a couple minutes for questions. So Sage eCommerce, certified by Sage, built-in responsive web design themes, allows you to scale a presentation layer. Integrations out of the box, so real-time orders and payments are out of the box. It duplicates your business logic, so we're not constantly pinging your Sage database. Allows you to drive incremental revenue, allows you to be cost-effective, and so allows you to allows you to deliver a fast ROI with the implementation of Sage eCommerce. It scales without additional customization, so there's no additional customization to move up the stack in the new Sage version, and it streamlines your business processes, so it makes you more efficient in how you're running your operation. You'll get these slides, but there's a digital insights blog. You can go check it out. Some great information about e-commerce industry and Sage e-commerce features. There's our social media links. Definitely check them out. Some good stuff there. That's my Twitter handle and my email. If you do have questions after the session, feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have. And Haley, I'll hand it back to you.
Thank you so much, Stephen. We did get one question. How long does it take to implement Sage eCommerce?
Yeah, that's a good question. So we go back to the 5-step onboarding process. For Sage 300 implementation, generally it's 3 to 4 months. 3 to 4 months from start to finish. For Sage Enterprise Management, it's usually a more complex integration, and that is usually around 6 to 8 months for implementation.
Okay. For the listener, I hope that answers your question. And another question we did get was about pricing. So how does the pricing work with Sage eCommerce?
Sure. For both Enterprise Management and Sage 300, there are 3 aspects to our pricing model. There's a one-time license fee. There's professional services, which is basically the onboarding and the consulting to get you from kickoff to go live. And then there's a monthly SaaS platform fee. As I'd mentioned, Sage eCommerce is a cloud-based e-commerce solution. So a typical Sage 300 implementation, the license fee is usually about $15,000. It's about $17,000 for standard implementation in terms of professional services. And most of our Sage 300 customers will pay about $750 a month in hosting. How we look at that hosting is there's 2 variables. One is the number of SKUs on the platform and the number of the number of SKUs and the number of transactions. And so it's a sliding scale. So the bigger your company, the more you'll pay on that hosting. Sage X3 or Enterprise Management is a bit more expensive. It's usually around $35,000 license fee, more sort of in the range of $30,000 to $40,000 in services, and the hosting it varies. We have clients that pay $1,500 a month to several thousand a month, depending on the size and scale of their business.
Those are the 2 questions that I had come through. Does anybody else have any questions? Oh, we have a question from Laura.
Great.
Is there a list of other systems software integrates with that this software integrates with?
So that's a great question, Laura. Thanks for asking. So today, XM Developments, Sage eCommerce, only integrates with Sage Enterprise Management and Sage 300. So those are the 2 ERP systems that we integrate with. We do work with other marketing tools like Bazaar Voice, HubSpot, Google Analytics. So from an ERP, we integrate with those 2 platforms. And then on the front end, we integrate with other marketing tools to provide a better experience for clients in terms of digital.
Okay. Let's see. Here's the only other question. Does anybody else have any questions? That seems to be it.
Great. Well, thanks everyone for your attention and joining the webinar, and thanks Haley for hosting, and thanks to Bass for putting this session on. You've got my contact info. Feel free to send me an email if you have any additional questions on the session or would like more information, and I'm sure these slides will be made available on the Bass website in short order. So thanks for attending, and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Haley.